We'll call this council meeting to order at 6 p.m. I need a motion for the adoption of minutes, please.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on Monday, July 11th, 2022, and the minutes of the special meeting of council held on Friday, July 22nd, 2022, be adopted as circulated.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Knox. All those in favor? And that's carried. We have no delegations this evening. We have a number of public hearings. We'll open the public hearing for second and third readings of Bylaw 22-8736. This is zoning amendment PC 2322. This is for Nelson at Old Bridge Road Southeast. Is there anyone here to speak to the hearing? Okay, need a motion to close the hearing?
Be it resolved, and I so move, that the public hearing for Bylaw 22-8736, zoning amendment PC 23-22, Nelson Old Bridge Road Southeast, now be closed.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. All those in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, council, before you, you'll see the report to council. As was indicated before, this is actually to give second and third reading to a bylaw that was originally read first back on May the 24th of 2022. And this is for PC 23-22 for bylaw number 228736. So the issue is to rezone the property from AL, which is agricultural limited zone, to rural residential zone. You'll see there's a number of alternatives that we have. Today, of course, consideration is second and third reading. The background, just to kind of review it, was the question, or the property in question for Parish Lot 105 is presently zoned AL, or Agricultural Limited Zone, and the applicants, both Tyler and Ashley Nelson, wish to rezone the property to rural residential zone, as per the condition of subdivision number 4550-22-8134. I know we're familiar with it. The Portage la Prairie Development Plan policy states the following. I won't get into all of the details on that. You will see that there is a sketch for your reference, in addition to an actual sketch of the larger area as well. The application was circulated to various city departments, and as you can see, there's been no concerns expressed. As part of what we need to do, the application was advertised in the Daily Graphic for 2 consecutive weeks. Did circulate to the province, and public notices were sent out as per, of course, Section 168 of the Planning Act. As of this writing, we have not received any objections to the proposed rezoning scheme, as you've seen tonight as well, and the documents were circulated to the provincial departments and agencies, and there were no objections. So it's administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the application to rezone the land known as Bridge Road Southeast and legally described as Parish Lot 105, Parish of Portage la Prairie, from AL, or Agricultural Limited Zone, to RR, Rural Residential Zone, and that bylaw number 82-8736 be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried.
And finally, I so move that bylaw number 22-8736 be read a third time, finally passed, signed, and sealed.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. We'll open the public hearing for variation PC 4322. This is for Amont at 18 21st Street Northwest. Is there anyone here to speak to the hearing?
My name is Landon Amont, 18 21st Street Northwest. I'm just here to answer any questions that council may have.
Council have any questions for Mr. Amont? Okay, all good. Thank you. Need a motion to close the public hearing?
Be it resolved, and I so move, that the public hearing for variation PC 43-22 for Amont at 18 21st Street Northwest now be closed.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. All those in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, and council, again, before you, you'll see in the report, in addition to that, you'll see the site plan, and there's a sketch for 1821st Street Northwest. And what the applicant for PC 4322 is the file, Land and Amont is requesting variation. Not uncommon, we've approved many of these before, but the issue is to vary the side yard requirement of 1.5 meters to be reduced to 0.87 meters, and the rear yard requirement of 7.5 meters to be reduced to 2.4. The applicant wishes to build a garage, and he's applying for the variation order in what I just indicated. You can see there from the previous minutes for your reference that council has approved similar requests, varying different sizes, but all along the same path. The building is in an R1 residential single-family zone, and of course the application has been circulated to various city departments. There have been no concerns. Public notices have been sent to all property owners within a 100-meter radius, and as well there's been no objections. So it's an administrative recommendation, and I so move that the council of the city of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of Land and Amont to vary the following. A, for the side yard requirement of 1.5 meters to be reduced to 0.87 meters, and the rear yard requirement of 7.5 meters to be reduced to 2.4 meters at the property known as 1824th Street Northwest, which is legally described as Lot 2, Plan 21994 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. We'll move right into committee. First up is Finance, Legislative and Property Committee. Councillor Buds.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing to report in my committee, but I do have several items under new business, so you'll hear from me later.
Thank you. City Planning and Economic Development, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing to report at this point in the agenda, but I too have some new business quarterly reports to talk to about later.
Thank you. Community Service Committee, Councillor Knox.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing to report in this portion of the meeting.
Thank you. And Waterworks Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Waterworks Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. And Transportation Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Transportation Committee has nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. And Public Safety Committee, Councillor Knox.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing from public safety in this portion.
Thank you. We have no deferred business, but we have a number of items of new business. First item is City Planning and Economic Development. These are second quarter 2022 reports. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. In the absence of our Economic Development Officer, Eva Leary, I'm going to take the liberty just to talk about a few highlights of the second quarter report for PRED. A couple of things, of course, the report's always based on our strategic plan, and we know the four areas that we're consistently looking at, which of course is governance, regional economic development, communications, and financial management responsibility. A couple of the highlights, just so you're aware that PRED has been involved in over 90 plus stakeholder meetings in the second quarter of 2022. And for those of you that maybe are not fully aware of what PRED does, is it does bring the lens of economic development when working with community stakeholders throughout the region. There's a number of check marks. I guess you can read through those, and I'm assuming council's already read the report. A couple of things I wanted to highlight. One is the updated business registries to ensure that there's access to reliable data. Areas we're working on the governance and bylaw update as well, in addition to the other things that are there. Portage Economic Response Team, once again, is a group of stakeholders, of course, that meet on a regular basis to discuss and collaborate in resources to find what we need basically to work together to keep everything moving ahead. Some of the things that happen and some of the work that's in progress right now is there's an investment readiness assessment on RFP out for that. We're completing a PRED is completing a regional community profile in addition to a business navigation sheet. Portage Regional Tourism Committee, again, is a group of stakeholders that gather on a regular basis to obviously talk about tourism. And you can see what the mandate, mission, and vision of just that part of PRED is as well. And you'll see the number of projects, and the one that I'm proud, of course, to talk about is, again, Burger Days version 2, which happened in 2022 as well, and I'm sure everybody had their fill. And I know that talking to a number of restaurant owners and people that were involved in that, they were extremely excited to see that happen again. And of course, from an economic perspective, it did put just under $100,000 worth of extra revenue is what I consider, because you don't always go and have 22 burgers in a week, right? Like some of us, but it really kind of gets the community going as well. We know that. So we certainly wanted to thank everybody Pred wanted to thank everybody for that support as well. And then the rest of the report gets into our investment attraction and talks a little bit about where we're going. So unless there's any questions, that's kind of the summary of the report, but it's a report I'm pretty happy to present.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Community Services Committee second quarter 2022 report. Councillor Knox.
Thank you, Your Worship. We do have a number of reports listed there for everyone's information. I won't go through them all, but a couple of highlights and things that we're going to talk about tonight is I would like to welcome to the table Mary Lawrence, who is our new Executive Director for Portage Community Revitalization Corporation. Welcome, Mary. Thank you. At the same time, we do have in the room Victoria Espy, who is our outgoing Executive Director for PCRC. So at this time, I would just like to thank you, Victoria, for your years of service to the organization. I know you've worked hard to bring lots of great things to our community and have built a great team over at PCRC. I wish you well on your new endeavor, and you'll be my neighbor on the street. So thank you very much and take care. Okay, so Mary, we'll put you to work right away. We do have a report from PCRC, and I thought I'd give you a little bit of time to give us some highlights of your very lengthy report there.
Sure, I can definitely do that. So as per usual, we had a very busy second quarter. So our local immigration partnership program hosted the second annual Anti-Racism Week, and they had a number of partners and events go on in June. So they did things like a scavenger hunt, human library speakers at the high school. They had a cricket match and a family pickleball evening. All the events were very well attended. The Community Building Youth Futures team added 2 new members. So one of them will be working with the roving campus graduates to ensure they're successful post-grad and connect them to any services they might need. And the second position is a block connector to build communities within our community. And they engaged in a number of Pride events in June for youth, including painting the rainbow pathway along the crescent. Our community facilitator, Rachel Templeton, has been involved in a number of committees still, including the Parks Committee, and she helped out with the fundraiser barbecue for July 1st. The PCRC board approved the request for a proposal for the affordable housing build that we're working on. So Carrington Homes was the successful bidder. There was only one RFP submitted. So they did agree to use local subcontractors whenever they could for the build. Our Connecting Community program ran spring beautification days again, and they had over 1,000 people partake in community cleanups. And we also ran Touch a Truck for the first time post-COVID, and we had over 400 people attend that. So it was a great turnout. Wowokia received an additional $20,000 from Justice this spring to help bridge gaps for clients in our community. So that's really helpful in things like transportation and getting people connected to mental health if they can't access public services. Our Reaching Home program started the Flocking Flamingo Friday, and I know the mayor was a victim of that. And they also ran a community garage sale, which they raised $500 with. So any money that they fundraise goes directly to clients who are getting housing for the first time. Usually they're starting from scratch, so it's really nice to set them up with some basic furniture and kitchen supplies. Our urban Indigenous strategy was involved with a number of cultural events throughout the spring, including Anti-Racism Week, and National Indigenous Peoples Day. Cornell helped with blanket exercises, TP teachings, and also helped facilitate the Indigenous art painted along the crescent. So that is a pretty good overview of what we worked on during the second quarter. And I'm happy to be here as the new executive director at PCRC. Victoria Espy laid a really strong foundation, and I was able to receive a lot of mentorship under her. So I'm happy to be in a new position, and I've learned a lot over the past 3.5 years at PCRC that I've been with the organization.
Thank you, Mary. Other reports that we do have a report from the youth counselor that you can read, a heritage report, and public art. And just one thing that I'd like to highlight for the Parks Committee, you may have heard that they are working on a new skate park in our community. And tomorrow night from 4:30 to 7:30, they are having an open house over at the BDO Center to get feedback from the community. So come on out and have a look at what they're planning and give your feedback. Unless there's any questions, that ends the community services report for this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Knox. And now we'll have the Public Safety Committee second quarter 2022 reports. And this is Councillor Knox again.
Thank you. Again, we have a couple of reports here from Bylaw and our CMP. And in-house, we do have Kyle Adamski from Bylaw Enforcement. And I thought maybe, Kyle, without going over your whole report, that maybe you could just give council a little bit of information on some of the unsightly yards and how that is going for Bylaw and how busy you guys are and what's happening with that.
Very busy. I'll just bring up the number here. 223 properties we've dealt with in the second quarter, and it has not slowed down since. We've only just been able to start back lanes in the last 2 weeks, because front yards, main yards were the focus for the officers, and yeah, it's been very busy. We actually had 23 contractor cleanups, which is I've never seen since I got the contract, where we had to actually send the contractor in to clean up the yard. So it's been very busy with the grass and the weeds, and that's not including garbage. So added another 50 yards roughly about that just for garbage. So it has been a very busy summer so far.
And we can take into account that grass did grow this year, not like last year.
Yeah, maybe people aren't used to that because, yeah, grass is growing every 2 days.
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, how can people, if they have, say, a house in their, or a yard in their area, you know, that's unsightly that they want to report, how can they do that?
They can just call the 239-8326 number, and we'll send officers out right away, do the inspection, and open a file.
Right, or they can
Takes
put
within 7 days to.
Yeah, or they can put it in through the Connect Portage app too.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah.
Creating a file through there.
Excellent. Excellent. That's all I have for questions for you. And
Councillor Buds?
Yeah, thank you. So just further to your question, Councillor Knox, can you also just kind of walk through what citizens could expect if they had an unsightly property? So I've made the Service Now ticket or the Connect or called, and so there's been a visit, and so how long does it take, just for the betterment of, you know, people hearing it, how long does it take before we get to the point where there actually might have to be a contractor called? Like, we're talking weeks, months? Can you just give us a little bit of a time frame?
So for grass, weeds, back lanes, it's a 7-day window. That's from time of inspection, a notice is served. We give the property owner or the occupier 7 days to clean it up. And with grass and weeds, we clean it up right away after 7 days if there's no correction. If it's garbage, trees, an unsightly property, it's 7 days for the first notice, then it goes to order, which is an additional 7 days. So you're looking at 14 days for correction on that kind of property.
Thank you.
My question was, now I do understand, you know, the grass is growing quicker this year, but there's a huge number of files, not just grass, untidy premises. Is there a trend here? Is anything to explain why we've got a greater number of files?
This one, I'm not sure. I tried to look back for trends, and we're not even seeing repeat. Every week it's new properties, and we're not even looking at 4 to 6 inches a lot of these properties are 1 foot, 2 foot in length, so yeah, I can't explain the trends.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council?
That so ends my reports for this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Knox.
Thank you.
Councillor Knox, did you want to comment on the RCMP report or no?
No, that so ends for, council can read that report this evening. Thank you.
Next item of new business is the award tender for janitorial services at city facilities. This is Finance Committee. Councillor Buds.
Thank you, Worship. And as you mentioned, the issue that we're discussing tonight is the award of supply of tender for janitorial services. You can see that there was 3 companies that were run through our point system, and this tender was advertised on our webpage, the newsletter, and on Mercs. There were 14 tender packages were emailed out, but you can see one that we didn't get, obviously, all those back. And one bid submission was disqualified as it did not meet the minimum score. So the proponent, the recommended vendor, did have the highest rated average combined score of price and other factors, and it was Triple V Building Maintenance. That bid price is $170,000, $88.65 net of GST. Works out to just over $85,000 a year, plus consumer price index adjustment in year 2. So I think you guys all know, but each facility has its own independent budget for this work, and any cost changes will be accounted for when preparing the 2023-2024 operating budget. So, and those the facilities which are covered: operations office here at City Hall, water treatment plant, water pollution control facility, library, and the utility maintenance office. So it is a recommendation of the committee, and I so move that the council of City of Portage la Prairie award the tender for janitorial services for the city facilities 22 Ops 020 to Triple V Building Maintenance Limited for the tender price of $170,088, $170,088.65 net of GST.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Espy. Any questions? Councillor Knox.
Thanks. I just really have a question. I haven't heard of this company before, so I'm just curious. And I didn't read the tender that went out, but is there a portion that you need references on this sort of thing?
Through your worship to Councillor Knox, I will actually ask Ms. Friesen. This falls under her purview, but I believe, yes, there are references that were checked with the company.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as per the tender, they do provide references. Other local businesses that they take care of are the Provincial Building and the Food Development Center, and the owner of this company is known to city employees through previous contracts. So,
Thanks.
Any further questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Next item of new business is the Southeast Development Plan updates. This is also Finance Committee. Councillor Buds.
Thank you. And the issue tonight is just to authorize the withdrawal of funds from the Land Development Reserve for some work that we want to get done. And so, as you know, the city is going to be in possession of some additional land with the closure of the Agassiz Youth Center. And now we need to re-examine what we want to do with that and our development plans. And so that obviously is going to cost some money from consultants. And so this work is expected to cost no more than $40,000. And we are earmarking those monies to come from our existing Land Development Reserve, which has the funds in it to handle this expense. But it does require council's authorization to access this. The company or the consultant that we're working with is Sisson Blackburn Consultants, and basically it's building off some of the other work that was done in that area in the past. So it is a recommendation of your committee, and I so move that the council of City of Portage la Prairie authorize the withdrawal of up to $40,000 from the Land Development Reserve for updates of the Southeast Development Conception Design Plans.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Espy. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Next item of new business is the first reading of Bylaw 22-8741. This is for Homestead Co-op Limited. This is road closure and sale of Setter Street. Councillor Buds.
Thank you once again. If you were to look at some of the streets in our city, this being one, we look at Center Street and we say, where is that? And it's because it's not recognizable, and that is not uncommon in some of the municipal layout of our city. And so it is right adjacent, you see in the sketch, it is adjacent to the River Road Co-op, and Homestead Co-op is in fact interested in purchasing it. As per the city policy, sale of public lanes in undeveloped areas, the lane could be sold at a rate of 45 cents per square foot plus all costs in accordance with the Municipal Act, if not required for city use. And we've determined that that's not an option, or they can't see us using it. So this is a consistent policy that we've used throughout many interactions that we've had with people that are interested in this type of thing, and that works out to just about $12,000. So the municipality proposing to close a municipal road must give public notice and hold a public hearing in respect to the proposed closure, and must serve notice of the proposal and hearing on the minister. And basically to ensure all property owners with land abutting the road are informed, notice of the proposed bylaw and the public hearing will be mailed to the property owner. So we will obviously follow the required steps to do this. We will hopefully give this first reading tonight, and then it'll be circulated for review by government agencies, and again, we'll follow the process. But it is a recommendation of the committee, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie give first reading to Bylaw 22-8741, a bylaw to close the municipal road known as Center Street and authorize the sale of land for the sum of $11,857.73 plus all costs associated with the closing to Homestead Consumers Co-op Limited.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Espy. Any questions, comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Next item of new business is the second quarter 2022 financial statements. This is Finance Committee. Councillor Buds.
Thank you. So every quarter we do review and approve the 2022 financial statements per quarter, and this is the end of the second quarter's report, and those would be given to us on June 3rd, representing March 31st results, June 30th results, September 30th, and so on. This is the report itself. I'm just going to jump to the actual financial statements, which is the actual second PDF, and it's broken down on the statement of financial position, or aka a balance sheet for our general fund, and then the income statement on page 2, statement of operations, general fund, the bold being the actual results. And so there's a significant variance to budget when you look at it, and you basically could say to yourself, oh boy, are we ever ahead of ourselves here? This is basically backloaded, if you will. We will be incurring a significant amount of expenses that we normally do throughout the remainder of the year, which will narrow that budget variance down. So we are in a positive variance position right now, but that will be closed. That gap will be closed. We still watch those numbers, and we'll have a much better idea as to how things are looking as we enter in further into the fall. But very positive position to be in right now, but we do expect that to close over the course of the next number of months. And then same type of situation on the utility side, our balance sheet, and then basically our income statement, which is showing a positive variance as well. We do, though, anticipate we will have a little bit of a positive variance on the utility side based on some changes that were made to utility rates. And that obviously is going to be reinvested in the significant amount of utility infrastructure that the city is embarking on. So again, very positives on both sides of our general and utility side, but we do expect those variances to close as we get towards the end of the year. And the last page 5 of the report just outlines the reserve balances, both on the general side and the utility. So that does conclude the report. I just made one $40,000 withdrawal for our land development reserve for council's review there in 2022. We are sitting at just about $2 million in that reserve, so lots of funds for that. Administration has also highlighted some of the variances, and when they exceed variance exceeding plus or minus 60% total use of budget are identified, which kind of I highlighted some of them there in my report. So if there are no questions, I would move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the 2022 Quarter 2 financial statements.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Espy. Any questions, comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Next item of new business is the June building reports. This is for information, and this is city planning. Councillor Meyer, please.
Thank you, Worship. As usual, from the month of June, you'll see the building report both from the RM and the city. And as usual, I, of course, draw your attention to the combined report for both, as we are a regional organization. Surprising enough to see that the permits are down, which I think is what was expected, although the dollar value is up significantly. Not a lot of variances from year over year, other than you look at the industrial new, which took a significant jump over where it was last year at this date as well. So just on a positive note, I know that the planning district has been working extremely hard, especially with that number of permits and everything else going on within our fair city. So certainly hats off to them for continuing to do the work that they do, and it's really nice to see that the dollar values are up, even though the permits are down. So it's a pretty exciting report. And that's the end of it, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Next, I have new business. First reading of bylaw 22-8740. This is rezoning PC 4822. This is for PCRC, lots 1 and 2, block 1. Plan 27884, and this is also city planning. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, in front of you, you're going to see a report. It's obviously to start the rezoning of lots 1 and 2, block 1, plan 27884 for the Portage la Prairie Community Revitalization Corporation. So, of course, tonight it's to give first reading, if that's what we so choose. The property in question, as you remember, were lots 1 and 2, block 1, plan 27884 in the parish of Portage la Prairie. And currently, right now, it's zoned R1, which is a residential single-family zone. And what PCRC wishes to do is to rezone it to multiple family zone, or R3. We're all familiar with the development plan, and of course, it does state things like the housing and mix and affordability, the infill development, and of course, this sits in with that as well. The application will then be circulated, if passed, to the province for review and comment after the first reading. And then as per section 74(1) of the Planning Act, council then shall indicate its intention to enact a zoning bylaw amendment by giving first reading and proceed with a public notice as set out in section 168. The first reading then would commence the process as defined in the Planning Act and, of course, in considering this application. So it's my recommendation, it's the committee's recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie give bylaw number 22-8740 first reading, and that public notice be provided as defined in section 168 of the Planning Act.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. And our last item of new business is the award tender for water main wastewater sewer renewal contract, and this is Waterworks Committee. Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Worship. So this tender was advertised on the city's webpage on MERCS with the Construction Association of Rural Manitoba and with the Winnipeg Construction Association. 5 local contractors were contacted. Only one bid was received from Toll Construction Limited for $747,921 net of GST on July 26, 2022. Sustainability factors and pricing were evaluated and are listed above in the attached table. The contract consists of a bunch of work that is all available for you to see, and the project will be funded from the 2022 wastewater sewer renewal budget of $311,000. The 2022 water main renewal budget of $397,000 and the water main looping budget of $50,000 for a total budget of $758,000. The contractor has indicated that work will begin as soon as their 2021 contracts are complete and continue as long as the weather allows this year. The remaining sewer and water main renewals and final asphalt repairs will be done in the summer of 2023. It is the administrative recommendation, and I so move, that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie award the 2022 water main and wastewater sewer renewal contract as specified in Tender 22 OPS 021 to Toll Construction Limited for the tendered price of $747,921 and excluding GST.
Moved by Counselor Espy and seconded by Counselor Knox. Any questions, comments on the motion? Counselor Buds?
Yeah, this is not uncommon. I mean, we've got an established vendor with the city and Toll Construction. However, I was just wondering if management or any department had any feedback on, we send these out, but we only got one back. Are we receiving any feedback from any of the other bidders or potential bidders on some of the city-issued work?
Through your worship to Councillor Buds, this is an area of overlapping responsibility between our utility operations, so I would probably ask Ms. Loki Jobin to answer that, and if I'm mistaken, go ahead, Ms. Friesen.
I would say we haven't got a lot of feedback, but we are aware that other contractors are very busy, specifically with our work that's already taking place on Saskatchewan Avenue West. And there's a lot of projects going on all around right now, so that would be my guess at why we didn't have a lot of bidders.
Any further questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. We have no old business this afternoon, this evening. So council is adjourned at 6:37, and we're going to move right into committee. Call committee to order at 6:37 p.m. First up is Finance and Legislative and Property Committee. Councillor Buds.
Yes, thank you. So just for council's information, you might be asking when you read this report, like, I thought BDO was our auditor, and you're right, they are. They were awarded a contract from 2020 to 2022 fiscal years. The annual appointment that we have to do is for the municipal council of all municipalities. Municipal Act, says that we need to do this annually. So basically, it's an affirmation of a previously negotiated contract that I'll be bringing forth to council at our next meeting, just saying BDO will be our auditor for this this fiscal year. So are there any questions related to that item? That concludes my committee report.
Thank you, Councillor Buds. City Planning and Economic Development, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning Economic Development Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. And Community Service Committee, Councillor Knox.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Community Services Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. And Waterworks Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Waterworks Committee has nothing to report.
And Transportation Committee, Councillor Espy.
And the Transportation Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. And Councillor Knox, Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing from your Public Safety Committee this evening.
Thank you. So committee's adjourned at 6:39 p.m. Thank you for coming out, everybody.